Welcome, everyone. My name is Jeff Olson, and we've got a special session for you today. We're going to be interviewing an influencer. One of the things about the agency project that we set off on 7-8 months ago was to tell or show people and introduce people to the idea of going from me income to we income. And as part of the agency project, we should probably call it the agency revolution, because this thing is blowing up with influencers. Sort of the bottom line is, how do you make money being an influencer? That's really the bottom line. I come out of professional sports. My background was a professional athlete. I had the luxury and the blessing to have cash sponsorships. And so I was able to make money doing my thing. But what I do now, one of my professional goals is to help athletes understand that they've got this thing called influence, and how to take that influence and turn it into something where they actually own it. If you think about influence and traditional sponsorships, generally, you're getting swag, you're getting product, you're getting equipment, but if you're really good, you're getting cash. And I want to talk to you today about, if you're an influencer, in the world, you're a Gen Z or Gen Y, and you've got somewhere between 10,000 to 100,000, followers or eyeballs, that has economic value. And my invitation to you is to actually own it. Today's guest is Ariel Shipe. I met her 6 or 7 months ago, and she's an influencer. She's got tens of thousands of followers on Instagram. And I asked her, I said, have you monetized that, or have you been able to turn that into steady stream of monthly cash flow? And as I've watched this influencer be influenced by this agency revolution, this idea of we income versus me income, and this idea of collaborative, a collaboration is the only way to grow income beyond yourself. Profits are better than wages. I've seen her come alive. I've seen her turn into a mentor then of other influencers. And so with that, let me introduce Ariel Shipe. As I said, I met her, and the night I met her, I was like, this girl has got something. She's a hustler. And I woke up the next morning, like 4:30 in the morning, driving up to Maroon Bells, watching this girl do yoga. And ever since then, I've sort of watched her come to life. So with that, Ariel, thank you for being with us. Why don't we just start out with, give us a little sense of kind of before and after, before you kind of came into the agency revolution, as we're calling it.
When I first met Jeff, I was a full-time yoga teacher, and then I had about like 40,000-ish followers on Instagram. So my regular day-to-day life was teaching yoga. I mean, I was teaching full-time. I had a couple of private clients, and then I taught about 9 or 10 group classes. When you're not working, you're not getting paid. You don't get health insurance benefits. If you ever go away, you don't get PTO or anything like that. And financially I was doing okay, but I was not looking at making like tons of money. But I wasn't, probably looking to be, making 6 figures anytime soon or anything like that. And then when it came to social media, I was just starting to get offers for paid posts. But for the most part, it was like, companies sending me free hats in exchange for getting a post, or, gift cards in exchange for posting about them. And at that 40,000 mark, I just started asking for money, and it was anywhere from I think it was like $100 for a post. So, if you think about what you would need to survive off of that, it's a lot. And now my Instagram page has still grown a lot, in coordination with this. And I still get paid. I get paid a lot more than that per post, but it's still not consistent enough for it to be a thing. So I think that there's this misconception, especially to a lot of people in my generation, of like, oh, well, if I just blow up my Instagram page, then I'm going to be making lots of money. And the reality of it is there's tons of people with followers on Instagram. And so, and companies, there are tons of people that are willing to do things for free, and companies know that. So companies are really taking advantage of that. And I don't blame them. Like, everyone's trying to get what they can get. But if there's 2 people with 30,000 followers, and one will do something for free and one won't.
You've sort of educated me that there's a sea, that there's tens of thousands of that demographic who, is it that large? What's the market for influencers between 10,000 followers and 100,000 followers?
Maybe 3 years ago, if you had 100,000 followers, or maybe even longer, that you could start to make a career from that. But now there's so many people that have reached that mark, because that just keeps growing and growing, that it's like you need closer to 500,000 followers to be making enough money to be to live solely off of that. once it got to a point where it was like starting to get really real, then I started to be like, okay, is there more to this story? It takes a lot of time to keep up with engagement on a page as it grows. I mean, you have to respond to every single comment, you have to like respond to direct messages and things like that. So there's a lot more going on when a page is that big. And so, you do start to think of your time and like, wow, like maybe I should be compensated for this because I'm doing work to make this stay consistent.
When it comes to sponsorships, my experience was athletes, would rent out their influence. Traditional sponsorships is a third-party transaction where a company will come to you and I'll give you product, swag, equipment, or cash if you're fortunate enough, and I want to rent your influence. And maybe just kind of walk through kind of the last 6-7 months of what you've learned going from me money to we money, me income to we income, kind of that agency transition from being an agent to owning an agency and then beginning to work with a tribe and lead a tribe. What's that meant for you?
As far as the freedom aspect of it, it's been so nice to be able to do something that's really rewarding, to help other people with their health, to help other people with their finances, and to have the freedom to do it. I mean, I've traveled more in the last 6 months than the last 3, 4, or 5 years combined. You know what I mean? I've been able to be on the road and do all these things that I love to do. I bought a van. So all of that is really nice, but also it's been really empowering, to, like Jeff was saying, like to start to build this tribe and to step into a leadership role. I'm capable of so much more than I ever thought I was. So I think the most important thing I've learned over this whole thing is it's not my job to convince anyone of anything. It's my job to educate people on a cool opportunity, whether that's for their health or for their finances, and they get to make the decision for themselves. And so when you get yourself out of that mode of like, well, I don't want to convince anyone to do this, or I don't want to I don't want people to think whatever, you don't have to go there because it's not your job. Your job is just to be like, yo, I'm doing something really cool. I have no idea if it would interest you, but let me share some information. And, depending on how many followers you have, you'll have to navigate how you share that information in a tactful way so that you're, being mindful of your time and your energy. I have friends now that are some of my closest friends that I didn't know 10 months ago and that I wouldn't have known if this hadn't come into my life. In the end, like what's so great is we have a tried and proven system, and I just learned how to apply that system. So I just took what was already out there, applied it to a larger platform, and then I teach my people how to follow like this tried and true method.
What would you say to people that are kind of, this makes sense, but they don't know how to go from point A to point B?
I had no idea what I was doing when I got started, but luckily this business is shaped around mentorship, and you get access to incredible mentors, and then you get to become one yourself. It's really, really nice to know you're never alone in this. And, in fact, it becomes like our job and our duty to help lift people up and help rise them to be the best versions of themselves. And so like that becomes, your part of your duty in all of this. And it's such a privilege, but know that you're not alone in it when you're doing it either. So you get help and support along the way. And there's tried and proven systems. And so for those of you who are sitting in that field of influence, we have a tried and proven system that's been working. And then for those of the people that you bring into this invitation yourself, there is a tried and proven system that's been working, for 25 years. So you're never alone in it. There's so much support, and we just get better at using modern tools, but we're doing the same thing that's been working forever.